Hi, my name is Pat Ocampo. I'm a researcher and my work focuses on gender equity and intimate partner violence, and I collaborate closely with service providers and community partners. In this video, we explore what it means to take a gender transformative approach in services for women and gender diverse people experiencing intimate partner violence. The goal is not only to respond to violence after it occurs, but to transform the gendered power dynamics and systems that allow the violence to persist in the first place. Intimate partner violence is not random or individual. It's deeply rooted in gendered power, inequality, and social norms. When services take a gender-neutral approach, that is, treating everyone the same, they can unintentionally reinforce the very dynamics that survivors are trying to escape. Gender transformative approaches help restore autonomy, expand real choices, and shift power away from systems that constrain safety. You may have been exposed to or familiar with the earlier versions of the framework that use the term gender blind. We intentionally avoid that language. Disability metaphors equate disability with the lack of insight or awareness and reinforce harmful stereotypes. We can describe these concepts clearly without using ableist language. In this video, we use gender unaware or gender neutral to describe approaches that do not meaningfully engage with gendered power. The staircase illustrates how gendered harm develops over time. Patriarchal norms in society shape gendered stereotypes and expectations. Those stereotypes, in turn, influence attitudes about who has authority, credibility, and control. These attitudes shape behaviors such as coercive control, economic abuse, and other forms of violence. Importantly, they also shape systems, leading to chronic under-recognition of harm, underinvestment in survivor services, and policies that minimize or fragment responses. The result is gender inequities that limit safety, autonomy, and access to resources. The gender integration continuum helps us locate our current practices. Gender-unaware approaches treat everyone the same and do not name power. Gender-aware approaches recognize differences and adapt services. Gender-transformative approaches actively challenge harmful norms and reshape systems. This framework is not about blaming individuals. It's about understanding how well-intentioned services operate within systems shaped by patriarchal power, and how those systems can be changed. Let's dig a little bit deeper. Gender-unaware practice often assumes that sameness equals fairness. In intimate partner services, this means not naming gendered power or coercive control. It also means failing to screen for harms like economic abuse, which disproportionately affects women and gender-diverse survivors. When we don't screen for these harms, they become invisible or minimized, reinforcing the idea that they are peripheral rather than central to safety. Gender-aware approaches recognize that women and gender-diverse people experience partner violence at higher rates and face specific risks. Services may adapt, for example, by offering specialized programs or referrals, but these approaches often stop short of challenging the underlying power relations and system-level norms that shape risk, access, and outcomes. Gender-transformative approaches go further. They explicitly name and challenge gendered power, center survivor agency, and seek to change organizational and system practice, not just individual behavior. A key feature of gender transformative work is making invisible harms visible and responding in ways that restore power rather than impose new forms of control. Here's a concrete example. Currently, most services and many financial institutions do not routinely screen for economic abuse, even though it affects roughly 1 in 3 survivors. This absence of screening is a gender-unaware practice. It renders a common and deeply gendered form of harm invisible. A gender-transformative shift is to implement routine screening using the Canadian Centre for Women's Empowerment tool paired with meaningful follow-up support. Screening alone is not transformative. transformation comes from what follows: advocacy, financial safety planning, and restoring autonomy. This shift is gender transformative because it recognizes gender patterns of harm, makes invisible abuse visible, shifts responsibility from individual survivors to systems, and expands real choices and financial safety. It challenges the assumption that economic abuse is secondary and instead treats it as central to survivor safety. Gender transformative work is not about perfection, and it is not about assigning blame. It is about intentional, collective shifts, changing how systems operate so they no longer reproduce harm, transforming services, transforming lives.